Hey everyone, we're going back to one of our older intros, a little old school, because we're going back to the early aughts today for a look at a movie back then, an indie underground classic, Series 7, The Contenders. But that's right, it's Friday afternoon here in Southern California, Friday evening over there on the East Coast. It could be Friday late Friday. If you're over in Europe, it might even be Saturday or the weekend. But wherever you are, it's time for Cinema Crusaders, that show where we talk about older movies, retro reviews. We look at, sometimes we talk about current movies, but we're always talking about films that we think are important, that people would enjoy, and hopefully introducing you to those films and tackling the subject in a new and different way. But before we get into Series 7, The Contender, I have to introduce my fellow Cinema Crusaders who are going to join me on this journey for this movie today. So, first off, he is an artist and a writer in his own rights. He's done Symbols of Liberty. He's working on Fellhand for Blood World. He's also done Mr. Happy. He has written Fellhand as well and a number of other things. He's a multi-talented, very beautiful Mr. Jeff Bracey. How you doing, Jeff?
Is this a setup?
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to be out here.
This is go kill that old man. So
yeah, I'll kill that old man. He don't stand a chance.
All right, and then I do have to mention real quick that Lance Lucero is off making films and isn't with us today, so we wish him well and can't wait till he's back to join us. But we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the mind behind such things as Blitz and Michael Nero. He is also a writer, a multi-threat out there doing his best work, and he has also written some stories for Blood World, which you will see coming up in the future. I'm talking about none other than the man behind the Drow Priestess or Drow Paladin, Eleuthria, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Steve Shadewing Sellers. How you doing, Steve?
Doing okay. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. and no, you don't want to be a contender. You really don't, because there is nothing good about being on this reality show we're going to be talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to be a contender in this world. So let's jump right into it. So for all you out there who don't know this movie and what we're talking about, and we already have our first comment here from Mr. Mike Nunley of Open Comics. This movie has a lot in common with The Hunger Games in its premise, but like a reality TV version of the idea. Series 7 came out in 2001 and Hunger Games came out in 2008. Do you think it was an influence? Actually, I think it was more influenced by The Running Man, to be perfectly honest with you.
That would be my guess too, yeah.
Yeah, especially the original Running Man story.
Yeah, the one, the novel written by Stephen King is Richard Bachman before he got outed.
Right.
Yeah, that is much. I'm going to say I like the Running Man movie, but the Running Man novel by Stephen King is much more interesting.
Far more interesting.
Yeah.
King made fun of the movie in many ways.
Now there is a series currently airing that is based on the Running Man, and it plays it more like the novel, where one guy is chosen to be the Running Man, and every potential person out there has a chance of killing him.
Yeah.
So if you can find that, if you have the capability of watching that, you ought to check it out. It's way closer to the book. Yeah, it's not that kind of game show that they had, with the Schwarzenegger Running Man.
Yeah, and the government influence in the Running Man in the book is a lot closer to kind of what is hinted at here, but we're going to talk about that, because they don't absolutely come around and say what's going on here, but there's some things that you can draw. So
yeah,
with this movie, so the general plot is that in the future, people are drawn, and it seems like it's probably through social security number, something like that, but your number is drawn up, and 7 people, are chosen. One of them usually
6 people.
6 people, because you have the champion from the previous series, and federal agents show up at your door with a gun, hand it to you, and go, "Congratulations, you're a contender." And from that point, and then say, yeah, and then they tell you that on this day, the show is going to kick off, and then basically it's a free for all at that point. Do what you need to do to be the last person standing and kill them. And if you win 3 in a row, then you win your freedom.
Yeah, you have to kill 15 people over the course of 3, well, not 3 seasons, but like over 1 season, you have 3 rounds basically, and
Yeah.
you've got to kill 15 people to survive.
Yep, exactly. Let's see. And see. Oh, Mike says they were chosen for the lower classes, though. I think probably.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I
it seems
didn't
like that.
see I didn't see upper class people in the movie as presented.
Mhm.
So
It is very oligarchy type stuff.
Mm. So
Now-
hints of the purge there.
yeah, and right off the bat, they throw you for a little loop because our returning champion is Dawn, who is 9 months. I mean, she's very pregnant.
She's
I mean,
8 months pregnant at the time.
Yeah, she's ready to pop though, and she wants to get this over with so she can have her baby, and that's going to factor into the whole thing. And then arrayed against her are a variety of different people, including an ex-boyfriend from high school, a teenage girl who has just turned 18 years old, and is put into the thing, a nurse who is holier than thou, out there. There's an old man who may or may not be a conspiracy theorist. He's out there doing
He
his
seems
thing.
to know a little bit.
Yeah. And then there's a dude that there's just like a bro who's out there who's abusing his kids and stuff. So,
Who sounds like Tony Soprano.
Yeah, he's a bit of a Guido,
Yeah. And I'm missing one. There's one other that I'm missing. Who am I missing? It's like, so we got Dawn. We got
Dawn, you got the ex-boyfriend, you got the nurse, you got the teenage girl, you got the old man, and you got the bro.
Okay, I got them all. So,
yeah.
Okay, so that's our 6. Those are our 6 contenders, and they're gonna go through this whole, gosh, I'm not gonna say rigmarole, but this whole process where people are getting eliminated right and left, in different ways. Some of them go down better than others, and we find out some stuff about them, and then we're going to talk about that. And then we've got the twist at the end, and we're going to get to that as well. So I want to kind of talk about the characters in the different stages of the movie. But before we do that, I want to go around the horn real quick to each of you and just get your general thoughts on the film before we start breaking it down. So I'm going to start with Steve. Your general thoughts, your impression of the film overall before we get into the meat and potatoes of Series 7.
My first thought, like watching this, was, "What the hell am I watching?" It definitely has kind of like that kind of vibe, but it gets the whole atmosphere of reality TV, which was becoming really, really big around that time.
Yeah,
you had shows like Survivor and all this sort of things, and I've always hated reality TV, and this show really kind of gets into why I can't stand those shows. All of the forced drama, all of the emotional manipulation, all of these people that you're watching who, you really don't end up liking because they'll do anything to win. Everybody's kind of out for themselves. It's just like, I don't like any of this. And this show, and I will say this film did tap into that. And also like a lot of the stupid stuff that the show itself does. So there is a definite sense of realism or believability or a sense of reality behind the curtain. And I think that's kind of what makes this movie resonate. Even with its low budget, even with the actors you've never heard of who do a pretty decent job, and everything else that they're doing with it.
I honestly think that if you said that to the creators of this show, they would be happy because I think that's what they were aiming for. I think they were trying to show just how ridiculous reality TV is and how this was. I mean, if it kept going the way it was before people gave up on reality TV for the most part, that this is what we were going to, so, which is not out of the realm of possibility. So, what did you think, Jeff?
Rewatching this, I came up with some things that I hadn't considered when I first watched the movie back in the day. This is going on in America. And if somebody started popping off shots, even if I knew there was like a reality show in America, that's not the first thing I think. I think like, oh God, spree shooter, and I'm going to draw my firearm and start laying down some lead myself. So I think this takes place in a dystopian future where gun control has basically eliminated all firearms from the public.
Interesting.
Yeah, that thought occurred to me while I was watching this because, like this is what would happen if somebody starts pulling a gun. If you're in certain states, a lot of other people are going to pull some guns. And how do you regulate? Yeah,
there was that whole mall scene where this guy is shaking down. The guard is shaking people down for weapons.
Yeah. So exactly. So gun control has to have become absolute for this to happen.
And this is taking place in Danbury, Connecticut, which is
that's one of the interesting things about the show. Kind of like The Running Man. The Running Man would take place in the novel in different cities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could go anywhere in the country you wanted to, but here they have designated war zones, and they will fly you out there. There's again like a social class sort of thing. Something I didn't think about before is that you are given a gun and a clip. You have a magazine or a clip. And then after that, anything else you pick up is on you. Like the 18-year-old, her boyfriend bought her a bulletproof vest, and her dad got her a shotgun and like an AR.
Yeah.
And so like it's on you to arm yourself as best you can. So the poorer you are, the more it kind of sucks, unless you just start throwing your weight around with your gun, since nobody else appears to have guns, because we do see that happen quite a bit. Sometimes people just take guns like, give me this, give me this, give me this. I need it. Screw you. People are trying to kill me. And so I can't help but think like the dystopian control over the nation has to be so strong. And this is a Rome situation. We see this in The Purge. It's not like the Hunger Games where that contest is used to keep the people down, keep them suppressed and oppressed. Here, it's bread and circuses. It's a way to divert people's attention from the people who are really the problem.
So I got to ask you both of you a question real quick, just a quick yes or no question. But do you think, just, we're postulating here, do you think that the government is fibbing the numbers a little bit to get some of the worst people possible, or the people they want eliminated from society, onto this show?
I believe there's an element of that with the older fellow, because he knows some things. But in the other cases, it's pure TV. Oh, a pregnant woman, how dramatic. A teenage girl, how dramatic. A saintly nurse. Oh, it's all good TV. The broski. There's a lot of broski kind of guys.
They have to be manipulated. There is no way in the world that by chance, two people that happen to be high school sweethearts just happen to be contenders. This is manipulated.
Yeah.
Being to one odds.
Not only that, let's get into some of these people now.
Oh, yeah, so we're gonna have this her last chance in her old hometown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So let's break this down a little bit. Let's go through the people, and I want to go to that saintly nurse first, Miss Connie there, played by Mary Louise Burke. All right, now there is something fishy going on with her here, and I want to hear.
I think I know where you're going to go with this.
About the performance, but I also want to hear what you guys think about the character, because, first, she knows how to kill people. She's got medical training, and she kills a couple people through medical training. But then she shows up with a expensive as hell sniper rifle and takes a dude out with a shot across a crowded mall at a depressed angle.
It didn't look like a sniper rifle to me, but I was pretty shocked at how good a shot she turned out to be.
I was like,
my thought was that she found the gun that Lindsay, the teenage girl, had dropped. She had lost her rifle. So my thought is maybe she found it.
No, the girl had an AK. That rifle, if you go back and watch the movie again, that rifle is a long barreled rifle, and it's modified with a extremely long telescopic scope on it. I mean,
okay, I must have missed that, because when she's on the bathroom, I think she, when she gets caught in the toilet, I think she had a shotgun then.
Yeah, and she was trying to disassemble the rifle. I mean, I'm like, where did she get this thing from? And I'm like, I'm sure the producers gave her to her or something. So
yeah,
and how did she shoot
this is the thing we know that happens from reality TV. It's like, oh, these people are all doing this on their own, but like, there's been times like one of my wife's favorite reality TV shows is Storage Wars, and one of the contestants on that show got really upset that he wasn't getting the coolest stuff in the lockers, and he spilled the beans that they will place cool things on the lockers because somebody's not going to find something awesome every show, but
Yeah.
you need something to keep people's interest in the show. So they're going to stash stuff.
Not only that, if you've ever gone to one of those auctions, 9 times out of 10, if you buy a locker,
Yeah.
you're going to get somebody's used chonies. You know,
Yeah,
that's
it's all crap most of the time.
yeah.
So yeah, we know that reality TV producers will assist the drama of the show because it's all about keeping those numbers up.
So I want to go to each of you. I'm going to start with Steve here on Connie specifically, though. What'd you think of the character and what'd you think of the actress' performance? Because I think that each of these characters has their own flaw and a reason to hate them or at least dislike them. And I think the movie did a good job building those up and making them unlikable in different ways. So what did you think, Steve, about Connie?
She is a sociopath and a religious. I have known people like her. Let's just put it that way. I know people like her. So that's what really kind of makes it believable. I mean, she talks about, oh yeah, I'm just so believe in my faith, and oh, you're a murderer and you're so horrible, and it's just like you're doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
You're doing the exact same things. And it's like she goes when she goes to confession, the things that she leaves out, all the stuff that she does as a contender.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah.
I love when the priest tries to probably like, anything else, Connie? He's like, nope.
Yeah,
nope.
And you know, she doesn't do Christianity very well. I mean, there's no sense of forgiveness with her. You would think that a true Christian would be willing to forgive. She doesn't care. I mean,
it's so funny because that's something that's even reflected in Dawn's own family. I mean, she's estranged from her family, but what they do, they call her a murderer too. Like any of them would have a choice if all of a sudden they became a contestant.
Not only that, exactly. I thought it was funny is that, man, she sure switched that, flipped that switch when it was time to kill. She had no remorse. She's going in there and
now I have something to say to that.
People out. Okay, let's hear
it. Connie let something slip when one of her first interviews, and she says,
you're gonna say.
Yes, she says, I have assisted people, in easing their pain. And so I'm like, so is there euthanasia in this world?
Or is Connie
is Connie an angel of death? And I believe Connie's an angel of death.
I think she's absolutely an angel.
She's been killing for a while.
She's not the first time that she's done that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, Mike.
Yeah.
Especially in this movie for sure. So, Dawn, who is not the most likable person in the world, is probably Dawn and the guy, what's his name?
Jeff.
Jeff are probably the best people in the movie, and even they are, got their problems, but we'll get to them in a minute. So speaking, going from Connie, let's move to Tony, played by Michael Kychek. And now this guy, there's several interesting things that go with him. I got a few things to say about him, but I want to hear what you guys have to say first. I'm going to go to Jeff first. What'd you think of Tony and the performance by the actor?
Okay, I will say I think all of the performers did a really great job, and I think it was really wise to use unknowns. The only people I recognized in this film was Dawn, who had previously been in the Blair Witch Project, and I don't remember this actor's name, but during the reenactment of the finale, the guy who comes down with the microphone, he's a known actor.
The Jeff figure, from Survivor. So
and Will Arnett was the narrator.
That's it, Will Arnett. Thank you. So there was her and Will and Arnett. So Will Arnett's really the only person you'll recognize if you weren't a big Blair Witch fan, which is really ironic that the lady who plays Dawn goes from this sort of reality TV horror movie to this another reality TV horror dystopian movie if you get right down to it.
Yeah.
But Tony was everything you really don't like in a person. I mean, really, he was that bro dude. He's got all these kids and he's not working, so his wife's carrying the load. He talks about all of his problems, his juvie problems, like, oh yeah, me and the wife, but we're back together. And it's like, I know I should have stayed in shape. So he's boxing, trying to look like a tough guy, but you never really think it's going to happen to you. But if you think it would happen to you, it'd probably behoove you to be prepared. And then in the end, what does he do? He keeps his wife and children around his meat shields when she's been trying to get him out of the house. And he even goes so far as to kidnap his own child. And here's the first clue the producers of the show are really doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Is they take Tony down. and he's in a hospital. Like, oh, and Tony's paralyzed from a self-inflicted, knife wound. Is like, but you get to see how he falls, and you see how the knife is way over here. So somebody said, Tony's a problem for the show. We're going to sever his spinal cord and just make him an easy hit.
The producers of a TV show have a SWAT team that went out after this guy and took him down. So
they had the great OJ road chase.
It looked like the white Bronco chase. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not only that, actually, although she looks similar, I was just looking up her. She's got a ton of credits, but she's been behind the scenes in a lot of stuff. She wasn't in the Blair Witch Project. However, you know what she was in?
I thought she was. I could have sworn it said she was in it.
I don't see
I
it.
thought she was Heather, because Heather had dark hair, and you can see the tips of her hair dyed blonde.
I don't see that. Maybe she is. Maybe I'm just missing it. But here's an interesting one. And Mike Nunnally's going to love this. Put the lotion in the basket.
No way. She's that girl?
She's Catherine Martin from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, wow. I didn't recognize her.
Yes. So, yeah.
Your dog's hurt really bad, mister.
Yeah, that's her. That is
Nice.
actually her. So, crazy, crazy stuff. So, yeah, Tony. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on Tony there?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is a coward trying to pretend to be a tough guy. It's like he even gives the daughter up like a complete coward at the very end and just runs off like a bitch. And it's like, yeah, this guy was not going to survive. It's very clear this guy was not going to survive. I mean, he just kind of exists to be one of the early casualties of the movie. And that's pretty much about it. I will say that the actor definitely gave him that Tony Soprano vibe, and I did kind of laugh at that. But other than that, yeah,
I still feel like that's true to life, because some people won't deal with the reality of the situation. Instead of going ahead and getting prepared when they have that grace period, he's just hanging out. He's playing for the camera. This is his 15 seconds of fame, and even then,
you may be right, Mike.
Yeah.
If you have to talk about it, you probably aren't. So
and you still see like another manipulation of producers. They say like, oh, he's holding the knife to the throat of his own child, but when he steps out of the truck, he's holding the knife to his throat, not his daughter's throat.
I have to say, the thing that sold me on the reality TV part of this, and that I really appreciated about the movie, is the buildup before the actual killing starts, which was all that schlock you always get from reality TV. And Tony's was particularly effective as they show him boxing in his basement. I'm like, what the hell are you doing boxing? He's like, Don don't know what coming for. Don's gonna be in trouble. I'm like, Don's gonna shoot your ass. That's what Don's gonna do.
Yeah, she's not gonna box you, dude.
Yeah. So
I mean, there is a reason why a pregnant woman is killing people like 2 times their size or more.
Yeah,
she's got motivation like
she's
nobody
not fighting
else
them directly.
Yeah. It was pretty good, and I thought that the way they did that, the different interviews and stuff, was really effective, building up. I'm not going to say hype, because we're not hyped for it, but just building up that sense of immersion that we're having, that this is an actual reality show that's going on, and we're like, what and then you have this moment just like Steve had, where you're like, what the hell am I watching right now?
I mean, it really, to their credit, it really does look like a reality TV production, because not all of them are super glossy, and because of the nature of reality TV, oftentimes they do look rather cheap. I mean, that's why they started producing this stuff. It's cheap to do.
I remember a reality show I watched back in the day called Towing Wars that was set.
Oh, God. That one was the fakest of all the fakest.
Yes, and it was set in like backwoods. God, I don't even know where, Alabama or something like that, but like everybody there is like got a
I'm thinking I'm thinking like the Repo guys. Like that was like, okay, this is scripted.
Yeah, all of them. So, all right, so we've done Connie, we've done Tony. Now let's move on to the middle group of people that I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about Lindsay first, Miss Merritt Weaver. So that's the actress's name, and I'll kick it off here. I think Lindsay is interesting because I want to almost say that this was a pick to get back at her parents for some reason. And not only that, the fact that Lindsay goes from perfect little miss who is on her way to prep, been through prep school, is probably on her way to some school or everything, to being rebellious, F it all, gonna sleep with her boyfriend, doesn't care if her parents walk in while she's like having sex, armed with an AR, going out there doing her thing, and then dies. I mean, she has one of the worst deaths in the movie. She gets jacked up, and I'll leave it to Jeff to explain to what happens to her in particular, but I think her journey is so crazy. And it was, I'm going to almost say that the government chose her as a cautionary tale for all the rest of you out there type things. But her journey, and then the subtle satiric dig that the writers have at the helicopter overachieving parents that push their kids to be excellent in whatever they do. I mean, to see these parents driving around in their station wagon with the wood paneling on the side, urging their little girl to go kill somebody is just peak satire. It's really good. So I love that.
Yeah,
so
that's
Jeff,
some serious black comedy going on in this film.
Tell me what you thought about Lindsay there. So,
it's interesting, some of the things you brought up. There's when the mother is automatically, no, not my daughter to start with. And Lindsay comes up and is like, yes, I'm Lindsay. And you're like, okay, why? Does she just accept the inevitability of it? Is this some sort of get back at her parents for something? Because Lindsay, in appropriate teenage fashion, she's a little bit all over the place. She goes up and down in her journey throughout the film. The next time you see her gearing up, she's crying. Later on, her boyfriend is like, oh, you want to lose that virginity because this might be the only chance you get. And she's like, no. And then later on, after she's been shot people and been shot at, she's like, yeah, screw this virginity thing. And so she's a little bit all over the place, but she's also a teenager and she's dealing with all those exploding emotions and this incredibly stressful. Yeah.
The boyfriend is leveraging her impending death.
I mean, super. Like, if you want to talk about one of the scummiest people in the show, it's that kid.
Put him on Series 8, man. So,
I mean, I know, I know as a teenage boy, like looking at the linoleum will turn you on, but come on, that's taking it a bit far. But Lindsay is one of those I felt the most sorry for out of the film because she hasn't really lived it. She's got no experience. She doesn't. This girl's never even been in a fight in her life. She doesn't know anything. She admits
to all this too, which is one thing that I find her a little bit more endearing than some of the other characters. Like,
and
she admits that what she is.
Yeah, and her, she's one of the most open and honest about things. And she's which again is another interesting thing because we are just now at the time of this movie, the internet is starting to pop off. We haven't really hit peak social media yet, but it's kind of like watching her is kind of like a preview of where society was going to go with the social media. She's very expressive on the camera, and the tragedy of her death over all others is not just the fact that it is brutal that she is beat to death by a contender, but because of her helicopter parents, they actually killed her because they are trying to teach her how to use the weapons and stuff, and they go ahead and have her put the safety on her gun, which keeps her from shooting the old man who beats her to death. And if they'd have just let her right in there, locked and loaded, ready to roll, she'd have been fine. Until the nurse shot her.
Yeah, not only that, they had to sit there and watch her get beat to death.
I know, it was horrible. So all that's going on. That was a tough one right there.
She was completely in over her head with the whole thing. Mm-hmm. She was not ready for any of it at all. I mean, the fact that, she comes in probably more armed than almost everybody there, and she still gets her ass completely kicked as that bad. I mean, this just tells you she's not mentally the kind of person who should be in this game at all.
I mean, look at the difference between her and Dawn in the mall. Dawn is pacing, looking everywhere. She's like, this is definitely a watch your back kind of scenario. And Lindsay walks in like it's another day at the mall. She totally is not prepared for the old man to come out of the corner and just take her out.
Now, this is a good question. I'm going to send this to all of you in a second.
For real.
I think they don't specifically say this, But I think if you try to get involved, an outside person tries to get involved in this, you will get taken out by the police or that SWAT squad.
Yeah.
I don't think
It's
you're allowed
very
to
evident.
interfere.
Like as soon as you break the rules, like bad things are going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're allowed to interfere in what's going on in the game show.
But
at
you can
all.
certainly cheer, like, kill him, honey, kill him.
Yeah.
That was one of the darkly funniest things of like if them like
I love
cheering their
how-
daughter on.
I love how early on with Lindsay, it's like, oh, I love my parents and everything I do is for my parents. I mean, a lot of these stupid reality shows, you get a lot of these insights into these characters and they do the exact same thing. And then what ends up happening after that whole, incident in the woods with the old man, it's like, I hate you. I hate you.
Yeah.
She even breaks her dad's arm. She pistol whips him
Yeah.
and breaks his arm. He's in a sling the rest of the movie.
You're going to get me go out there and get killed, F you, Dad.
Yeah, I think that's what I think is brilliant about this movie is that it is just satirical and in a dark reflection of what the writers and producers of this film saw in society and where we were going, and I think it's pretty cool how they did that, even though it's not pretty to look at, and I think that's like that for a reason, So,
I mean, it's prescient because, like, looking at how society is going, can't all of us believe this could actually happen one day?
yeah, it would not
Sadly,
surprise
yes.
me. Yeah,
Because like we're so divided and we're so othered that it wouldn't take much of a push to devalue human life to the point where you just turn it into a recreation. I mean, we've had it since the days of the Romans and probably earlier with blood sports. It's been going on a long time.
This concept is still out there in new works. I mean, look at one of the hottest hits on was it Netflix from Korea, Squid Game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's basically a variation on the same theme. Different particular
and when you were
that
talking
they're going
about
it. So
when you were talking about cautionary tale, that's the whole point of battle royale, is them wiping out a teenage class of students as a cautionary tale, like to be good citizens of society.
Yeah,
like you don't want to end up in the class that ends up going out on the island and has to kill each other.
definitely. So let's get into probably the most interesting character as far as particular questions that we might have about this world, and that is I believe his name is Franklin, correct? Yes, Franklin.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, we were talking about the actors. This actor has been in quite a few things. He just looks incredibly different in this movie. Richard Venture was in Heartbreak Ridge, playing the colonel.
Oh, okay.
That keeps running into Gunny Highway. He was in Missing. He was in Courage Under Fire. He was in Scent of a Woman, and many other things.
Wait, he's the one who keeps having beef with Gunny.
Yeah.
So he was in People Under the Stairs.
No, Gunny Highway in Heartbreak Ridge. So.
No, Gunny Highway is like because the guy keeps running afoul of him. Like he beats the crap out of him in the water later.
Oh no, that's the captain, but he's the he's the colonel that is giving him crap all the time.
Oh, okay. Now I know who he is. Thank you.
Yeah. So he's been in quite a few movies, but he looks old and grizzled in this movie. That's all I'm gonna say. So Franklin is a very mysterious figure, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve first. What did you think about Franklin, and what are your theories on what's going on with Franklin? So,
I wouldn't be surprised if this is somebody who is kind of like a little bit into the Alex Jones type of person. But in this particular case, it's like I can kind of see this being a world where some of the conspiracy theories may actually have truth to them, because as we find out, this show is definitely manipulating people. They are definitely not presenting you the full truth of what's going on. And it seems like this guy might be like a survivalist or somebody that
absolutely
is definitely kind of like this guy really, the fact that he's able to beat this girl, even though she is definitely better armed and has more equipment than him, it shows that this is a guy who knows how to fight. He's probably been in a war. He he definitely knows his way around weapons and knows his way around combat. So yeah, this is not a guy who mess with. But he's also somebody who, he's also resisting the system because he didn't want to be dragged along into this in the first place. I mean, he was trying to pull out of the window, and they kind of forced him to go on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is a guy who, he might be a little bit fringe, but he might have the kind of paranoia where they really are out to get you. And it's never exactly clear like how much is paranoia and how much of it is him, being aware of what's really going on. And I find that interesting.
I will say before I pass it on to Jeff, because we are watching this show, like, we're watching this movie like we're actually watching a show. I wonder sometimes how much of it is real and how much of it we, the viewer, being manipulated, because it's awfully convenient that just as he says, I know what's going on, then Connie shoots him and with the sniper rifle and kills him,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's the big reveal there.
Well, if Connie's been given that weapon,
yes,
for all we know, somebody's going like, this is your shot, Connie, get him now.
Yes, absolutely. He's done it before. He's done it before. So
there's definitely no hesitation with him. Not like how shaky Lindsay was when she was trying to take him out.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking professional soldier.
Jeff couldn't kill anybody, so even if he wanted to. So, but we'll get to him.
Yeah, as for Franklin, I think it's very smart that you get the least amount of screen time with him, because it leaves us to fill in those gaps. I don't know if Franklin's active in doing anything against the society, or he's like, I'm too old, it's too far gone. But my impression is Franklin knows some shit.
Yeah.
And he's probably talking about it in some way. This is the early days of blogs and things like that. Or maybe he's trading war stories with some of his old friends at the VFW, things like that. But he knows stuff. And I feel like he is one of those political targets that he's been targeted for something he has been doing. And that's just left for like you to figure out in the subtext until you get to that point where he's like, his first interaction, he's like, this is bullshit. And he's saying that. And then when you get to the end, of course, he's like, this is bullshit. And I can tell you why. And that's when he gets shot. So like the audience never gets the truth.
Not only that, Franklin and Dawn both have the same attitude, but for different reasons. Dawn is been through so much crap that she just doesn't care anymore. Franklin seems to be
she's had to harden.
Yeah. Franklin seems to be, I'm old. I've been through the wars. What else can you do to me? Bring it on, mother effers. So,
and the choice to beat an 18-year-old girl to death with a heavy metal cane. And, he brought that. You don't see him run around with a cane the rest of the movie. He brought that there specifically as a bludgeoning tool.
Yeah.
Because this guy has plans. He has backup plans. He doesn't want to just say he's a contender, which like I thought was the smartest thing Lindsay did. It's like, oh yeah, I got a piece. I'm on the show. Like, and like, oh, go on through. He tries to play it off, and of course he gets nabbed. But at the same time, he's not unarmed, so he has some contingency plans.
I'm wondering if he was hiding the weapons from them, not from the other people on the show.
It might be. Mike's got a great question here. As writers, how do you feel about leaving parts of the story for the audience to figure out? I'm
for it in the right circumstances.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to leave the reader guessing as long as you're leaving enough for them to understand the general sense. And if you're kind of teasing them like this movie does, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
I also think it makes it for an interesting, because this is a satire and like an observational, a observation into the society. It makes us, if you have your audience asking questions and wanting to know more, it means you've done your job, I think.
I like it. I like it to an extent. I don't like it to a J.J. Abrams extent. I don't like the mystery box, every friggin' thing you do every 5 seconds. But I do like Quentin Tarantino's Is That Marcellus Wallace Soul in the case? What is this glowing thing? I like I like it in Cabin Fever. When I was like, what's in the kids?
Really happened.
Yeah. And and because we are still talking about those things decades later, it's interesting.
What's the
Like,
Rorschach journal or not?
there's a whole great list of YouTube channels that work on the basis of film theories and fan theories about things, and I love that discussion. I love, like, bantering those ideas around.
I will say that I had an experience recently that made me very cognizant that I didn't know that talking about the ending of Watchmen in the comics and the movies could generate such heated discussion. So
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
yeah,
avoid that. So
yeah.
no, it was a good discussion.
I just think, yeah, it is. I think she's just a really good example, though, of how ambiguity can lead people down different paths and have vigorous discussions on these things.
Yeah, plus it makes you wonder, and I think it makes you examine because if they give you the whole answer, yeah, you know what's going on, but then there's no, real
Yeah,
questions you have to ask. Versus when it's nebulous like this, you kind of look around and you look around at your real life and go, could this scenario fit into a possible future of what we're going down now? And I think we've all concluded that, yeah, it could actually, given the right circumstances.
I
So
mean, I like the idea that Quentin Tarantino actually knows what's in the Pulp Fiction briefcase,
yeah,
but he said, like, I know what's in there, but I will never tell you because I think what you guys are coming up are far more interesting.
well, it's like the end of Inception too.
Yeah.
Although I
yeah,
think
right.
he finally gave it away or he said something about it, but I don't know. You know, uh, all those different types of things I think are kind of cool and let us talk about and have different fan theories and then I think that they as creators like to do that as
Hmm.
well because they like to give us little clues and they like people to talk about the stuff they're doing. It's like when Jeff
Yeah,
revealed
it's
to me
fun.
that Blade Runner is in the same universe as Alien, man, my brain went into overdrive after that. So, with different theories.
And the movie Soldier with Kurt Russell.
Yeah, that's insane. So, all right, let's get to the last two. The last two who will survive contenders. They are also connected together, and I'm going to go to our champion coming in first, Dawn, played by Brooke Smith. Now, Dawn is one of those figures. I think if we knew her before she was on Series 7, she's probably
Hmm.
not a very likable person at all. You know, she's kind of a bully. She's kind of a bulldozer over a lot of people. She's used a lot of people in her life, obviously, although I don't think the people in her life are particularly nice either. Um, but there's a part of me that's kind of rooting for Dawn because she's giving a big FU, a middle finger to the system,
Hmm.
and has survived to this point, which seems to be absolutely the unforgivable sin in this universe. So I'm going to go to Jeff first. What did you think of Brooke Smith's performance? You've already said that everybody did good, but what did you think of Dawn? What were your takes on Dawn as a
I
character?
think I think she was really exceptional. For one, if you take somebody out of the world and you put them into an intense combat situation, it changes them. It has to change you if you're going to survive. You've got to survive not just physically, but in order to survive emotionally, you have to compartmentalize. And whenever you get to go back to the world, then you process. And we all know that that can lead to problems. We know soldiers have PTSD and things like that. But while you're there, you've got to do the job if you want to go home. Like, I don't remember what story I read it in or what interview. Um, Somebody said, like, a soldier's job is to kill the enemy, but a soldier's objective is to survive. And that's what the average soldier wants to do. Like, okay, I'm here to do this. I can't get away from doing this. I probably even signed up for do this if we're not talking about a period of draft. But at the end of the day, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
I just want to, like, do whatever I have to do and go home, get out of this jungle, get out of this sandpit, whatever. And Dawn's in that mode. And I think the actress does a really fine job of portraying that, of becoming the monster you have to be in that sort of situation, because she's not a soldier.
Yeah.
She's been put in a far worse situation than being a soldier. This is
She's
a friggin' game show for her life and
her baby's life.
her baby's life,
Right.
which is pretty crazy when you think about it, because it just shows you how viciously ruthless entertainment's become if they will put not just a singular person at risk, but they will put a pregnant person at risk. That means two people. 2 lives are at stake. And you know they're doing this for ratings. That's what it's all about. So you've got that. And so she has the most uh, empathetic motivation. We can all relate to that. We can all relate, oh, God, yeah, I'd do anything to save my child, too.
Mhm.
So there's that thing. But there are these other moments where you see her longing for what might have been, her regret for the past. It's very clear that the child she aborted, which made her estranged from her family, was Jeff's child. How
Mhm.
she used to be this gothy girl with no cares in the world. It's like, oh yeah, I can parade and pretend about death and all this. And in the when she's holding her child, there is a genuine tenderness there, and that's the first time we actually really see Dawn. Well, not the first time. We do see her be tender with Jeff, but like it's tender in a whole different way. She really pulls off this mother thing to a point where it's like, okay, she's obviously held a baby before. I don't know if she has children of her own at this point, but like I believed it. I bought into it. And that humanized Dawn in a wonderful way. And unlike you, she's clearly an unlikable person at some point in her life, and she's unlikable by necessity here because you
Yeah.
have to brutally murder people. But I think when she goes back to see her family and she says like, oh, I'm going to try and beg them to take my child if I don't make it, and it's like I don't like dealing with my family because that makes me who I used to be.
Yeah.
So I think sometime along the way, after she left her home and she dealt with her abortion and she dealt with her heart being broken, I think Dawn kind of found herself, and she definitely found herself enough to a point where she connected with somebody at least physically, and had a
Right.
child that she wanted to keep. She was looking to maybe in some way make amends for a deeply held past regret, and then this happens to her.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that, and I also say I think Dawn, the word I would use to describe her is survivor. She's a survivor.
Totally.
Um, I will also say before I hand it over to Steve to talk about Dawn a little bit, one of the things I found interesting is that Dawn plays the game on a whole different level than everybody else, and she
Hmm.
reminds me a lot of bit of what that guy's name from the first Survivor season was. It Richard or somebody like that?
Yeah, Richard
Oh
Hatch.
yeah, Richard Hatch. Yeah,
Yeah, where she's
not
playing
Hatch.
5D
Richard.
chess, where she's calling up and telling Connie that there's a bomb in her house and stuff like that.
Oh
Before the
man, I
game even
loved her
starts.
friggin' mind games. Like,
Yeah,
come out, you pussy, fight like a man. The
yeah,
pregnant woman calling you out like that.
yeah,
And she really does by this part of the show. She does have that soldier mentality. When she's doing her little interview, she's even accepted like, okay, I'm just going to do the interviews. It's part of what's going on. Even when she gets too emotional, it's like, get that camera out of my face, sort of
mhm,
thing. She talks about like how she survives. Like, reaction time is really important. I'd rather stalk than be stalked. Just all these things that she goes on, like situational awareness, being improvisational is like you can tell she has survived a lot, and she has built upon those successes to keep herself alive.
See, what did you think about Dawn? What takeaways did you have from her?
Yeah, I mean, she's really not likable. And again, I do agree that a lot of it is because of what this show has made her. What she has had to do to survive. But she's very good at playing the game.
Hmm.
I will say that. I mean, this is a woman who really, I mean, should be dead 100 times over if she fought like Lindsay. Like she has no way of physically, fighting some of these people that she has killed. But she's smart about it, and
Hmm.
she finds ways that are creative. She uses her skills and to her advantage, what she knows how to do. She's very good at stalking people. She is very good at using weapons. I mean, she has to give herself an advantage because she's not able to go toe to toe with some of these people, especially pregnant. And thinking of her baby, she doesn't doesn't want to put her baby at risk. In addition to that, so she is being very smart about that. And but at the same time, it's like I can't help but wonder whether they brought her home just to get some of the reactions that they got out of her.
Of course they did.
Having her run into her family again, having one of the other contenders be her ex-boyfriend. Oh yeah, that was totally a coincidence. No way it was. That they chose that on purpose. Um, you know, but at the same time, it really gets a different side of her, and I don't think that they realized that the games that they were playing caused her to go over the edge and basically say, "Yeah, screw you. I'm not playing your game anymore." Which
Yeah.
I loved. I loved that storyline with the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to kill you under these circumstances. I can't bring myself to do it. I'm going to get my baby back. We're going to start a life together, and we're going to get out of here. Even if it's one of those things that on some level she kind of knows can't happen. She's damn well going to try because she's not going to lose the person that she really loves. They're either of them, the child or the ex-boyfriend. So yeah, they don't have to do.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's true. There's
Ted was
plenty of
very likable. He was very charming.
Yeah, so was Norman Bates. Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of sociopathic murderers, but this woman, yeah, I mean, she definitely goes to some pretty dark places, and it kind of reminds me, actually, this and something that I'm doing with Mike kind of reminded me of an Alan Moore quote. Mankind is kept alive through darkest deeds. And she is definitely one of the epitomes of that in this movie. And
I mean, like one of the best things, like I've actually read the Hunger Games books, and one of the best things they do in the books, which I'm sure would happen to Dawn here, is when these contestants go to previous contenders in the Hunger Games for advice and training and stuff like that. All of these people who have survived are so damaged and so traumatized and still so dangerous because that experience has never left them. And I can't help but think, like, poor Dawn, even if she did kill the last guy, in order to stay sane, she would have to focus everything on just raising her kid to deal with all the PTSD she's going to have, because she's going to be messed up.
Before we bring up Jeff, I do have to say I would have liked to have killed the producers for bringing on one of the worst and most unlikable 80s songs ever and playing it over and over and over again. I didn't like that song.
Dawn's face on the football field said it all. I was like, fucking really?
Yeah. I didn't like that
They look
song.
like they were auditioning for The Cure.
Yeah. I didn't like it when I heard it in high school. I didn't like it in this movie. I still don't like it. So, it's just like it gets in your head and like uses razor brains on your brain. So let's talk about Jeff. Can you think of a more, I'm not going to say pathetic, because he's not pathetic, but his condition is pathetic.
I'll say he's pathetic.
You're going to put a man with testicular cancer in there who married a woman he obviously doesn't love, just a whole host of things. I just don't know where to go with Jeff. And then the fact that at the end of the movie, they keep him alive deliberately to make him the target for Series 8. And then I think when we talk about Jeff, we also have to talk about, I think it's Sheila is his girlfriend's name.
Doria, I believe her name was.
Doria? Yeah.
Doria.
Yeah. Doria, who comes along as a package, who is a Stepford wife who, when spurned, can't come up with, can't reconcile the fact, and then has to try and eliminate, the rival for her effect. I mean, she's like something straight out of like Black Mirror or, Twilight.
I'm sorry, I don't believe she tried to eliminate Dawn. She's another victim of the system.
Okay, that's right, because she's being dragged off for the.
She's being dragged off.
We never saw her do it. Never saw her do it.
And she says, like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
All right. So with Jeff, I don't think there's a lot to talk about with Jeff. So let's get into the circumstances around Jeff's hospitalization and then the trial.
I can talk about Jeff. I hate Jeff.
Okay.
Jeff sucks.
Well, let's talk about Jeff real quick, and then we're going to go to that. We got to talk about that. So I'm going to start with Steve because I went to you first there. Steve, your thoughts on Jeff, and then we want to hear Jeff go off on Jeff after that. So we'll let Jeff go on a tirade. So
yeah, I didn't hate him that much, but yeah, I have to agree he is kind of pathetic. I mean, I kind of knew it's like this is a guy from the beginning. This is a guy who wants to die. This is not somebody who is going to go out, actively trying to survive. He knows he's going to die anyway. So it basically he's sort of in that situation. But this is also somebody who has been lying either to himself or to his wife, like, for ages. because it's like he doesn't want to admit that he's gay, and he doesn't want to admit any of these other things to either her or to himself or to Dawn. And yet there's this attachment that he has to Dawn, which sometimes is very powerful, and then other times it's like, I have no problems leaving you. And yeah, this dude's got some issues. And then it's like, I want to die, and then no, I don't really. And yeah, please kill me at the last minute, maybe, assuming that the producers weren't lying about that too. So this is a guy that kind of goes back and forth on a lot of things. He's somebody who doesn't seem to really know what he wants half the time. And then, when he does, it's always like at the worst possible moment for any of these people to get out of the situation. And I can't. He's not really that likable either. No.
Yeah, half the time you're like, shit or get off the pot, Jeff. Come on, man. Do something.
Basically.
So you're sitting there with the stick poking him going, what the hell is going on with you, man? So, all right, Jeff. Both barrels loaded. You ready?
Oh, yeah. Let's do this.
Let's get it.
Now, the brilliance of the Jeff character is the fact that they make you sympathetic right off the bat. He's got testicular cancer. He's dying. It's inoperable. And the only honest thing I think that Jeff does in the film is when they hand him the gun and he tries to pull the trigger himself, but they haven't loaded the gun yet. Because I guess like when the agents hand you the gun, they probably don't want you to turn around and just shoot them right off the get-go. So like, here's the gun. We'll give you the bullets in a minute. But like that's like the most legitimate thing he did. That, and when he admits that he wants to live. And the psychology of that is this guy who says he wants to die. He knows he's going to die bad. Cancer is no fun. He's already lost his nuts. As a man, you're like, what's the point now? I'm not even a man by man standards. So he's got all this going on in his head. And the fact that, he's repressing the fact that he's actually gay. So he's got all that confliction going on. And, once he fights for his life, instead of just like, oh, well, okay, you're not dumb, but hey, right here, just, there's a good vein for you. He could have just let it go right there, but he's still flashing back to his high school where he's got to be all the cure. He's got to be all maudlin about it. There you go.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like, oh, let me have this romance. We're like, you, Dawn, you should be the one to kill me. Who does it matter who kills you? You already tried to pull the trigger on yourself, but no, you've decided, even though he resists initially, he doesn't want to do any interviews. Then he finally starts getting into it, and he just kind of romanticizes his own death and everything. And Jeff just fucking sucks every step of the way. He has been lying since he's introduced into the movie. When Dawn talks about their meetings, like we fell in love right away. That's not Jeff's reaction. That's not his reaction. The only time he ever says he loves somebody is when him and Dawn come face to face for their big finale. And he doesn't reciprocate that in high school. He's confused everywhere he goes. He lies to himself. He lies to everybody else. And Jeff will turn on a dime if it kind of suits him at the time. So yeah, I couldn't stand Jeff. I thought like, oh, okay, like this kind of Tony do it. I'm waiting for him. Like, yeah, I don't like him. He can die. I was like, but the more I got to know Jeff, the more I was like, yes, please, somebody kill this guy. Just get him out of my misery.
And that goes back to Steve's point where you're watching this and it's just like a giant dumpster fire where you're like, God, just nuke Danbury. Just take everybody out.
And the thing about Jeff is Jeff didn't need the game to make him horrible. Jeff was already horrible.
Yeah. And you're watching this, and once again, it goes back to real reality shows. We were watching all these people on the reality shows and going, I don't know. Who am I rooting for? Injuries? Maybe?
I'll give you... Now, we, here in Myrtle Beach, we did have a reality TV show for a short while called Myrtle Manor. And I met some of the people who were on the show. And I kind of asked them, I was like, hey, can you give me a little scoop on how some of this works? And this doesn't pertain to this so much because these people are in these situations. And I'm sure the producers, we've seen they're working ways to prompt them. Again, since you guys mentioned it, like the Connie taking out Franklin, that feels like a big producer move right there. Like, we're going to help you score this one. But they said they wouldn't give you a script, but they would give you a situation. You know, like, if this happens, how would you act?
Mhm.
So what you get are people who don't know how to act, acting as they think they would act in these situations. And that's how a lot of reality TV works. You get some that are, the only one for sure I know is 100% legit is Cops. But beyond that, you know, you got to admit there's always going to be some stuff going on behind the scenes with reality TV.
Now, unfortunately for all of us, when Don and Jeff go into the movie theater, the rest of the footage was lost. It was really sad. There was a technical glitch, and so we have to rely on reconstruction of what's going on. So the
It didn't
reconstruction
happen
is,
like that.
yeah, the theater, they want the return of Don's baby, and then the footage was lost, and a producer of the show came in and talked to them, and Jeffrey admits that he is wants Don to kill him, and then Doria comes in, and she kills Don. That's
Yeah.
right, and then saying she still loves Jeffrey, and then Jeff shoots himself in the head, and and then we're gonna find out some other things. So, but we have this official government approved version of events, and it's interesting that we don't get to hear from any of the people who are in the theater or anything else. Man, those people in the theater might not have made it out of the theater, as far as I'm concerned. So,
I
and then
personally don't think they ever went to a theater. I think they
yeah,
caught him somewhere and then they cooked this whole thing up.
I wouldn't be surprised. And then we see Laura, who is named Doria for the government approved version. She's being dragged off to jail for the rest of her life for killing Dawn, and interfering. And then Jeff wakes up in the hospital and says, "Oh shit!" because now he is the returning champion for season 8.
Now,
Of the
I will
Contenders
say
series
to
8.
the producers' credit, if we take them as actual beings in this world here, they very cleverly built their narrative upon everything that had happened thus far. Jeff tried to kill himself once, so we put that in. Dawn has already broken the rules once by trying to help Jeff commit suicide. Dawn obviously will do anything for her baby. There's all this manipulation, like, oh, Dawn, listen to your baby on the speakers. So it's all set up beautifully. But I was really hoping Dawn would be like Arnold in The Running Man. When Will Arnett comes in, like, oh, listen, Dawn, that's your baby. I wish she would just cap him, like, all right, the next person who doesn't come in with my baby, I'm just going to shoot him too. Keep going until you actually bring my baby in the room. Because that's how Dawn would have played it.
Hey, Killian, I'm going to give the people what they want.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ending. Steve, what did you think of the ending? What do you think is bullshit? And what do you think is real? Do you think all of the government approved thing was bullshit? I mean, what was going on there for you?
I think it's very likely that most, if not all of it, was BS. I don't think it would have happened that way. I mean, we might have gotten like clips of real footage in there, and then following that, everything that happened in the theater that we saw didn't happen. I think that other woman was probably set up to be the fall guy, for what ended up happening to Dawn, just to get her out of the way or to silence her, maybe to prevent her from like interfering further. Any number of things might have happened. I am pretty sure that Jeff probably tried to get it, ended up killed, and he didn't. It seems like he was expecting to die and he didn't. So they wanted to keep him alive so that they could have a somebody there, to be the champion, and somebody that they know is going to die in the next season anyway because he's got cancer. So let him kind of be the champion. Dawn, by that point, they probably just eliminated off screen. I cannot imagine after what she did that they would keep her alive. I just can't, because she's too much of a threat at that point. I think, and she would do anything to get her baby back. I just don't think that they would do that. So yeah, I think they set it up.
I think Dawn is like one of those other winners in the Running Man movie,
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So, there are no winners. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever going to be allowed, because the context of it seems like she's the first one who might actually survive, eliminate all 15 contenders and survive. So but it doesn't feel like you're allowed to. And we've already seen, with what was the bro dude's name again?
Tony.
No, Tony. We've already seen with Tony that if you break the rules, well, you become a very easy target because they paralyze Tony. And
Yeah.
they handcuff him to a bed. Even Tony's like, "This is bullshit. This isn't a contest. I'm chained to a bed."
Tony.
We do know. I take it back. That they did go into a theater. And we do know they went in there. But as soon as they do the reenactment, their intention was to make some sort of statement because they have stolen the cameraman's camera, and Jeff is using the camera while Dawn is doing her thing and like strong arming the theater audience.
Mm-hmm.
I will add they probably deleted the footage.
Right. Yeah, they deleted the footage, but we, like when they have the people come in there, we don't see Jeff manning the camera. They're both swinging around their guns, like old Cagney and Lacey style. So
I'm certain that the SWAT team stormed it and took them out. But
definitely.
my question from all of that, and then I want to get just real quickly in the way it was filmed, and then we're going to get out of here. But my question from watching all of that and the way it was ended, and then to me, in talking to you guys, it's obvious that no one is going to be allowed to win this. My question is why? What is the purpose that is being served by this game show sponsored by the government, and why can no one win? Why is it necessary that no one can win? And it's left unknown. It's unknowable, but it's like that is just a huge, big, matzo ball hanging out there for me. So
to get rid of dangerous people. I mean, if you're dangerous enough to survive 7 seasons of this, you're a threat. They have to eliminate the threat before it goes out there, but at the same time, they have to do it in a way that offers hope to people to continue playing the game.
Maybe it's also a warning too to people as be like, everybody kind of knows, stay in line, or your number might get drawn. So,
I mean, for those who have kind of figured out what's going on, there's definitely that. Keep your head down, stay in your cubicle. Do what Big Brother says, sort of thing. So Heather has been surviving Series 7.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been going on at least 7 years in a world that, so like in 1993, like this popping off is pretty inconceivable.
Mm-hmm.
And yet in the context of this world, it's happened. And again, I'm fully convinced that nobody has any sort of firearms at all outside of contenders and law enforcement and military. So the populace is very cowed in a lot of ways. But the only way to keep them in line is you have to give them extreme entertainment, and you have to give them a sliver of hope. And the hope that somebody can make it. And this kind of takes me back to James Caan's Rollerball, where, he played for Houston, and he was a little too good at the game. And the system kept trying to tell him, was like, there's a point where like one of the elites is talking to him, is like, it's okay for you to be a hero and a champion, but you can't be that much of a champion. You can't win all the time. And he's like, well, I'm just happen to be that good. And it's like, you really need to throw a game or two. We can't have people thinking that they can rise above the system. So that's why you can.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why you can never go all the way. But if you get really close, people still think there's a chance.
This also reminded me kind of another movie we were talking about with the bread and circuses and the extreme sports and Idiocracy, to be perfectly honest with you. So real quick, and then we're going to get out of here. And I'm going to start.
I do have a question for you guys before.
Okay. Yep.
You want me to fire that off first?
Yeah, fire that one off first.
All right. We're in the world of Series 7. Your numbers have come up. How do you play it?
Steve, you want to take that one first?
I'd probably die.
I mean, do you die by a choice? Are you a conscientious objector?
I would say, I could, but I kind of like the idea of dying in a way that screws the system and with a big FU. But I'd have to think about how exactly to do that.
I would say that I go off the grid. So I would take my family and have them go somewhere else and get away from me until this was taken care of one way or the other. And then, I tell my cameraman, you ghost me, man. You ghost us one more time, and I'm gonna take your ass out myself. Paraphrasing, what's his name from Predator. So, speaking to Apollo Creed, I can't remember the actor's name, but yeah, I tell my cameraman, you give me away, I'll do you myself, and then I would be a sneaky bastard, killing people.
Okay, your line of thing is very much like mine. I'm actually ghosting my cameraman,
Yeah,
and I'm getting whatever weapons and provisions I need. I'm going out in the wood. I'm taking my ghillie suit, and you just won't see me. And
yeah,
if you get close enough to me, uh, I'm not going to kill anybody I don't have to.
yeah. And I'm not going after anyone. No one has given me a
But if anybody
timeline.
comes after me and they're like, okay, it looks like I've got to put you down
Yeah.
if you're going to play the game. But that's my thing. I'm going to resist playing the game.
Yeah, if I do come for you, yeah, I'm not coming. I'm not coming large either. I would come for someone small in the middle of the night, and it would be in ways that you would never see coming. So
I'd probably even like if some contestants managed to find me, I'd probably just go for a leg wound. It's like, all right, that's your one warning. Go away.
Unfortunately, that is the military in me. Which one of the first things they teach you there is don't fight fair. So that would be me. I would be fighting dirty as hell. So
dude, I would have like booby traps aplenty.
Yeah. So, but I don't want to horrify everybody and go into any more detail than that. So I
Learn
wanted
a thing
to
or two from Charlie, don't you know? You better stay away from Copperhead Road.
Let's talk about the look of the movie real quick before we get out of here. So this movie is filmed, is very much in what was popular back then. It's almost a found footage, but a little glossier because it's supposed to be a TV show, and that was all the rage back in the early 2000s. Steve, what did you think of it, the way they filmed the movie, and was it attractive to you? Was it effective, or would you rather have been an actual, like, beautiful movie type thing? So.
Well, I mean, it wasn't attractive, but it was unattractive in the way that worked. It is what is called a shot on shitio. It has that look. I'm borrowing that from the Cinema Snob. I just leave the way that term
one.
really covers it up. Just sums it up so well. But yeah, it is kind of like that. It kind of looks like shows that would have been around at that time. Things like Cheaters, for some kind of.
Oh, geez, Cheaters.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah. So it
cow.
kind of so it has that kind of that quality, and I think I kind of feel like putting that with the found footage aspect, makes it feel like it could have been something that could have existed back then, or
They didn't
could have
make
been.
anybody. They didn't make anybody beautiful either. It felt like real people. So.
No, they didn't make everybody beautiful, but they didn't make anybody like totally ugly. There was a very average look to all the characters and all the actors, and I think that kind of grounds it very well, and I thought that worked. In terms of the way it looks, I think that the look of it really worked with the cheap graphics and the cheap reenactments and all of these little things. I mean, it is a budget film. I mean, it is low budget. It looks low budget, but the beauty of it is that they make it look low budget in a way that makes sense for the story that they're telling. And
totally works in its favor.
So they managed to camouflage it effectively.
Cool. What about you, Jeff? What do you think about
it? Was 100% believable. Like Steve has already said, like the shitty camera quality because somebody's having to run around with a camera, and the fact that they didn't make anybody look great, and the crappy first year graphic design or graphics that are gone, and my favorite, the cheesy narrator. He was just a step away from Starship Troopers, and his kind of propaganda cheesiness. So, it was all there. It worked so perfectly. It is a product of its time, meant to emulate a product of its time, and it succeeds brilliantly.
From a more technical aspect, I also say that this is shot. It's the kind of thing that a very amateur filmmaker would do by accident. But this was done on purpose, so there's no color correction. There's no light taken into consideration. You get the natural light, you get the natural color, and it looks washed out. it looks washed out at times. You get bad lighting.
And
You get
I tell you, as somebody who's done my own short films and stuff, that must have been a tremendous relief. Not have to worry about setting up lights, not having to worry about makeup and stuff. Your costume is probably just like, hey, you know, what have you got in your closet at home?
pull something out.
Yeah, I mean, like it's on lower budget things that often happens. Like when you don't have a budget for wardrobe, a lot of times people will just wear what they've got, as close to they can get as a particular character, or like me and my friends have gone to a Salvation Army to find something that fits the character. But it must have been such an easy shoot in that respect. The most difficult things would have just been getting permission to shoot in various locations. That seems like the biggest thing you would have to worry about. And of course, letting local law enforcement know, hey, look, we're shooting with fake guns. Don't come shoot us, because we have had, I'll tell you what's ridiculous. We have gone and told people, like, look, we're shooting a film and we've got these fake guns. They're plastic. They don't shoot anything. Don't call the cops. And people still call the frigging cops on us. It's ridiculous. And then you have to explain to the cops, like, yeah, we tried to tell them. Like, so, it eventually got to a point where they just gave us a number to call to let them know, like, Cluckin' Films is shooting over here. I guess they probably have a little bit more clout because they're actually like SAG-involved actors in there, and they can do that sort of thing. But yeah, this must have been an incredibly easy shoot for the most part, considering what you usually go through when you do a film.
Absolutely. All right. So that is our Cinema Crusaders review of Series 7, The Contenders. Before we get out of here, I'm going to go to final quick thoughts from everybody, and then we are going to say goodbye. So, Steve, final thoughts on the film.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where you kind of start off not really understanding what this thing is and wondering what you're watching. And then over time, it starts to come into clear view, and you see that it is a effective satire of these kinds of reality shows, but also, a warning of what these shows could become and what society could become if this kind of stuff is allowed to happen. And so because of that, I think it is definitely an effective thing when you get that without the illusion of the game.
That's right, Mike.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
that's
exactly
right. Pretty amazing.
So yeah, it's very good dystopian future. I definitely got the sense that this was a dystopian future as well. That they're just kind of masquerading at it with it, and it really works. I mean, I don't know that this is a movie that I would have found on my own or I would have picked out on my own, but I do. I am kind of glad I watched it. So.
Cool. Jeff, final thoughts on the movie?
Unfortunately, I think this film's relevant just in the same way we found Idiocracy relevant. I see elements of things leading towards situations similar to this, and that's scary.
I will say for me, the things that I take away from this is that I don't even know that the government would have to do this now with the people that want to be famous on for all, at any cost, that are willing to put any aspect of their lives out on social media or TikTok or Instagram. I could see where the government could manipulate people into doing a challenge like this. It's the Pick 7 challenge where, you get temporary immunity to go off and kill each other or something.
It's kind of interesting you say that. Also, during this period when Stephen King wanted to see if he could still be successful by not being Stephen King, he wrote another novella called The Long Walk, which was another reality TV show where people volunteered to see who could do this extended walk marathon, and if you fell behind, you got shot. And people volunteered for this because there was a grand prize at the end, but only one person's going to get out of this.
Yeah. I mean,
and we look at the Squid Game and how all those people, after the first game, they find out like, oh, this is actually deadly. 96% of those people came back to play again when they were given the option to quit.
Yeah, and so I mean, you got kids out there eating Tide Pods for likes and views. So
okay, yeah.
So what are we gonna do? So. All right, I want to thank my fellow Cinema Crusaders. I also want to say Mr. Mike Nunley, if you're up for it, drop me a DM in Twitter and I'll send you the link for this because I got to ask you something. So if you want to join us here after the show, I will bring you in.
Cool.
But for everybody else up there, I want to thank you so much for watching Cinema Crusaders and our take on Series 7, The Contenders. Thank you so much, Steve, for being with me tonight.
Yeah, this was pretty good. It was a pretty interesting film, and always glad to discuss these.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff.
It's always a pleasure, especially to bring films out that folks might not have seen that have slipped under the radar. This was not a big budget thing, obviously, not a heavily promoted movie. It is a true indie film, and I love getting in there and discussing interesting films that people probably haven't seen, and hopefully sharing these things with folks.
Absolutely. I think this is worth watching, and it really did fly under the radar. I also want to say to everyone, make sure you check out all of our shows on Undercover Capes and Comic Crusaders. Please click like and subscribe down below. It helps us quite a bit. Go ahead and comment on the show. Let us know what we're doing. Let us know movies you want us to watch. I know we've gotten a suggestion from Mike Nunley that we're going to take up in the future. Do all of that. Make sure you watch our other shows, and to include that we're all on. I am on Countless Corpse podcast with Mike Nunley once a month. We also have the Fellowship of the D20 on Sunday afternoons that you can check out. We got the Omen Revelations podcast that Steve and Mike Nunley do. So we got all sorts of things out there. Check out our comics, check out our works. There's all sorts of stuff. There's a very sexy novel up there behind Steve that I can see. So, go check that out. And make sure that you watch Series 8, The Bachelorette, that's coming up soon.
And by the way, happy birthday to our host, now.
Thank you very much. I am 52 years young tomorrow, so I am
awesome.
Doing good. So, on behalf of everyone, y'all have a pleasant evening, and we will talk to you later. We are out of here. Bye, everybody.